Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Football Chat. Today we're going to be discussing Thomas Tuchel moving to Chelsea as the new Chelsea manager. We've got a very special guest today in the form of Mr. Jazza11 Jack. Welcome back. It seems like you're here every single episode. Not quite sure why.
Yeah, no, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, this guy is just
permanent.
It's almost like he's a main member. You know, like one of the two main hosts. I don't know. Anyway, to the point, today we're going to be discussing, as I said, Thomas Tuchel and his move to Chelsea, and also the sacking of Frank Lampard. Jack, obviously you're a Chelsea fan, so you probably have very strong opinions about this. I still have opinions, they're not quite as strong though, so do you want to just waffle on for a bit, because I know you like to do that, about the kind of appointment of Thomas Tuchel and the sacking of Frank Lampard?
I mean, he's looked good in his first couple of games, and I'm sure we'll probably cover that later in the podcast, or in the show. It's not really a podcast, but yeah. Lampard didn't really deserve to be sacked. He looked good, but we weren't getting results. But XG did show that Chelsea were underperforming XG, so he should not. I don't think he should have been sacked, because we were actually creating a lot of chances. We just couldn't finish.
Yeah. There was a lot of debating. Obviously, there was a gap between kind of the sacking of Frank Lampard and appointing Thomas Tuchel. And it was very obvious when Frank Lampard had been sacked. From really the minute he'd been sacked, it was quite obvious who they were going to appoint in the form of Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, he's had history as a manager. Borussia Dortmund, Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously, he got sacked from Paris Saint-Germain. So what do you think about that? They're two big clubs. And I'm not saying Chelsea is below either of them two clubs, but they are both very big clubs, especially Paris Saint-Germain, and he's coming from a big club to Chelsea, very small club. No, I'm joking, but it's kind of like, he's managed the Neymars, the Mbappes. What do you think about that? Kind of appointing a manager that has come from a big club, whereas some teams appoint managers that have come from small clubs. Good example, a while ago, Pochettino come to Tottenham from Southampton, which is obviously, I mean, at the time, it wasn't that much of a step up at the time, because Tottenham were like a mid-table club at the time of when he was appointed, but still, a move up nonetheless, whereas he's moved from PSG to Chelsea. So your opinions on that?
I mean, it's good because he's dealt with superstars, and I don't think Frank has that experience of dealing with superstars. You look at people like Havertz, Werner, Thiago Silva. I don't think he's dealt with them as well as someone like a Tuchel could have, considering he's got experience doing that. That said, I don't know if he's the right appointment. Well, I didn't know. I'm more getting to like the signing of him now, but originally I was quite on the fence about it, because I do think there's better options out there. I know Nagelsmann and Ten Hag wouldn't come now, but I do think someone like Allegri may have been a better option. But Tuchel's looked good in his first two games, so I mean, it's looking up. Positive.
Yeah, so should we go from chronological order? So let's start off. Did Lampard deserve to get sacked? I know you mentioned it, you touched on it a second ago, but did he deserve to get sacked? And why do you think Chelsea board decided to sack him?
I mean, clearly, we weren't getting results, but equally, we were playing decent. And if we look back towards the start of the season, a lot of our drop points are from when we had players like Kepa still playing in goal, Alonso still at left back. So once we had signed Mendy, we had got Chillers fit, we were playing a lot better.
Yeah, I think it's classic Chelsea board. I've said this before. I literally said it when it happened. It's very classic Chelsea board to give up on a manager relatively early. They did the same to can't remember his name now, but the current Everton manager. For some reason, I cannot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we just do, don't we? I mean, Di Matteo won the Champions League and was sacked literally months later.
Yes, yeah, it's very classic Chelsea board to do this. I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but I'm saying it's very classic Chelsea board to give up on the manager within a short space of time. And this is, as I said, a perfect example. Frank Lampard getting sacked. And also, it's very sad. Even, he could have gone, he could have been losing every single game for a year, but it still would have been sad to see him go for Chelsea fans, because he's a legend of the club, and as a player, he was one of the best players. What would you say Chelsea have ever had? Obviously, they've had some really top players, but up there with kind of, the very best in the Chelsea.
Definitely. I'd say he is our best leading goal scorer, ahead of the likes of Pogba. one of our longest serving players. He captained the side, so I mean, he has to be up there in the debate. I'd say with Drogba and with Terry and with like Osgood and that from the old.
Yeah, very sad to see him go for you. Not so much for me. I don't really give one. I don't have any emotional connection to Frank Lampard whatsoever. But so that's kind of covered the I just saw the phone vibrate there. But anyway, that kind of covers did Lampard deserve to get sacked? He didn't have the form. He wasn't getting the results, but I feel like they gave up on him a little bit early.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Was Tuchel the right man for the job? And if not, what other managers do you think would have been perfect for the Chelsea job?
I mean, so far we've looked good. I mean, passing play is lovely. Struggled against Wolves to break down their low block, but then we proved against Burnley that we can do that. Hopefully, get a result against Tottenham and prove it more.
Hope
But
not.
yeah,
I
I
really
mean,
hope not.
Tuchel's looked good so far. But there is always that argument: would Allegri be a better signing? I mean, he's worked with Ronaldo, so arguably he's better at working with big superstars and managing. I think the wages and the trouble that Ronaldo brings is probably more, or maybe the same. Neymar's quite a
Yeah.
handful, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've seen the kind of I only want to touch on it briefly, but even what's happening now with extended extended holiday
Yeah,
for Neymar. And it's he's a very he's very much a tough player to manage. I reckon probably one of the most tough there is, and yet he's a quality player, but he's the attitude sometimes is I imagine too much for a manager.
Yeah. If I could just add another thing about Tuchel, his formation. I like that he's tried something new. It wasn't working under Frank, and he just refused to change it. We stuck with the same 4-3-3. It didn't seem to do anything different. Played the same players everywhere. But Tuchel's come in. He's brought Alonso back into the setup. He's started Hudson at right wing back. He started playing a pivot of Georgie and Cover, and he started a 3-5-2, a 3-4-3, which has looked better than Lampard's formation, which he was very stubborn to just keep using.
Yeah. So would you say there's obviously you mentioned Allegri. There is just a bit of a wild card here. And I'm not saying he'd be perfect for Chelsea job. I just thought I'd bring it up. Because there's also obviously the debate in the moment, which is starting to become a thing. With Jose Mourinho. And I was saying that there's if shit hits the fan. Probably shouldn't swear, but still, if everything goes wrong, the perfect manager or one of the best managers that I honestly think in the Premier League currently, and some people sleep on him, and it would be very tough to get him on because I don't think he'd leave the current team that he's at. But Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I rate Brendan Rodgers, but I don't think he's comfortable at Leicester. He knows he's got that job. His family are settled in Leicester. He'd have no reason really.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be
any team he could move to. Really.
There's no reason for him to move from Leicester, but if something was to go wrong at Leicester, he'd be a quality manager for basically any team because obviously it'd be better for some teams than others, but I think he's a quality manager and very much underlooked. And you think of the main managers in the Premier League, you think of Jurgen Klopp, the Pep Guardiolas, but you don't really think of Brendan Rodgers. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, no. I'd also say Harsson looks very good, but not yet. He's still got a lot of work to do with Southampton. But similar how to Poch came from Southampton working with that good team. How Harsson could do that again. And he would be good at working with the German players. That's why I quite like the look of Nagelsmann. I mean, he was the one who brought Werner onto the scene at RB Leipzig. And he's also a very talented young manager who could lead the team for a while.
Yeah. So the alternatives for the job, obviously, as you mentioned there, you went through a couple. Allegri would be one of them. But ultimately, I think we've only seen 2 games from Thomas Tuchel, one being a draw against Wolves, and then the other being a 2-0 win against Burnley. And I think only time will tell with that one, whether he's the right man to appoint or not.
I mean, Tottenham's going to be a big game.
Yeah, it will be a big game.
I mean, Ten Hag, Nagelsmann are great options, but they're not going to come until at least the summer.
I,
Allegri is a good option, but I think he's waiting for the Real job in case Zidane gets sacked. So Tuchel really was one of our only options. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to touch on it later on in the episode, but we might as well. You mentioned it now. Tottenham versus Chelsea. He's gone. Oh, you went for a second there, Jack.
No,
Anyway, Tottenham versus
did
Chelsea, a massive one, not only for the new manager Thomas Tuchel, but for Jose Mourinho as well. Because if Jose Mourinho can get back on track with a win there, that'd be very good to say the least. But currently Tottenham have going slightly off track. Tottenham have had a poor last couple of games. We were poor, very, very poor against Liverpool, and even worse at Brighton somehow. Didn't even know that we could even be any worse, but we were against Brighton. And fair play to Brighton. They did play well. They didn't quite play as badly as that you'd expect them to, but let's face it, Brighton could be having their best day
Brighton
ever.
are very good.
Yeah, but I feel like Brighton could be having, their best day ever, and yet really we should be at least making it look like we're at least on par with them. It was like Tottenham versus Barcelona a couple of years ago. They really did look like the better side through most of the game until about the 70th minute, where Tottenham finally got some urgency and just couldn't get the goal.
One thing I would say though, you're saying like Brighton on their best day worse than Tottenham, but if you look at expected points, Brighton are actually above Tottenham.
What?
Which kind of shows that based on performance, Brighton are a lot better than Tottenham. I think Brighton's
So
problem is that
statistically,
Mopé doesn't score enough.
Statistically, do you mean like basically statistically how many, they're beating the big teams, they can beat the big teams with their performances, and yet they don't really get the points?
Yeah, well, I mean, no, they're doing well, they just don't score. Like, they create a lot of chances and a lot of good chances, but Mopé a lot, and I think that's a big reason why. I think Brighton could legitimately be like a top 8 side.
Oh yeah, they're a good side, and that was shown against Tottenham. But I feel like if we want to perform well and we want to be in that top 4, we need to perform a lot better. Back on the topic of Chelsea, and Tottenham versus Chelsea, it's a big game. It's a very big game for both managers, and honestly, I was saying to this to Jack, I think it was yesterday I originally mentioned it. I'm more scared of ourselves than I am of the Chelsea side. I'm just scared that we're gonna screw it up, because the way that Jose Mourinho started some games, especially against Liverpool, it just doesn't work. And I'm really hoping Jose Mourinho starts with a side that not only just the personnel, but also the formation, the tactics that are actually set out to at least get a draw out of that Chelsea game, at least.
Yeah, I think
we
Chelsea
definitely do.
Just changed their manager as well. I mean, Tottenham have to be the favourites, surely.
Obviously, Harry Kane's also missing for that game, which is a massive blow. But it shouldn't be a good enough excuse. You look at the quality we have in the squad. That shouldn't be, Kane's out, we're basically going to lose every game. It should be far from that.
Vinicius to step up in this game.
Yeah, you could do with Vinicius stepping up, or even playing Son up front, and then obviously like Bale or Bergwijn and Moura. I'd probably say Bergwijn and Moura is probably the better partnership there. Bale, another topic for another video, because there's a lot to say about him, and he's returned to the Premier League. We weren't necessarily expecting him to hit the ground running, but he has he's done far from that. But yeah, that's for another video.
Has he? I mean,
yeah, he hasn't really played that much. But yeah, there's a couple of more things that I wanted to go through. Obviously, your opinions on his first game. Let's go in chronological order. Your opinions on that very first game. Obviously, he's had one since, but
it was good. We looked solid, but we didn't score, which is a big problem. We just couldn't find a way past Wolves. Which, I mean, Wolves are a good side, and clearly they're set up well to do exactly that.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, that was a 0-0, but Wolves can be a sticky side. They can be really tough to play against sometimes. And yeah, I mean, if you just have one of them days in football where you just can't seem to hit the net, you cannot hit the target whatsoever, then you're going to have a real issue against a side like Wolves. Moving on to the second game against Burnley, that was obviously 3 points for Chelsea. 2 goals. Obviously, Marcus Alonso got on the act there on his return as well.
Yeah, it's good. It was good to see Alonso get a goal. It's good to see Aspi get a goal. We
You were
looked
letting...
much better in terms of being able to get shots on target. And I think if Mount had finished some of the shots he had, we'd have scored a lot more in there.
Yeah, you were letting your emotions out on the group chat. All I saw was Marcus Alonso, I king love you, and you were really letting out your emotions in the group chat. But you know that's what football's all about at the end of the day, the passion for the club, and that's really the depressing thing about when the kind of way that Tottenham have played the last couple of games. Like it's just so we start out that Liverpool game. We started out. There's no way Jose Mourinho thought these are the tactics to win the game. He was thinking, I'll get a draw against this.
He wants the draws. I mean, it's a very Mourinho tactic to try and park the bus from the first minute.
I know, but I know it's so Mourinho, but I've wanted to back Mourinho up from minute one, really. But I'm slowly losing excuses. So originally it was like give him a bit more time to get to grips, you know. And eventually we're going to run out of excuses. So he does need to improve. And yeah, that'll be obviously for another video because we could waffle on for ages. On that note, do you have anything else to say about the appointment of Thomas Tuchel to Chelsea? We've been going for a good 15, 16 minutes now. So
I think we've covered everything. We've covered every angle. I think I've said everything.
Yeah, so thank you guys for watching another episode of the Football Chat. Today, obviously, we've been waffling about Thomas Tuchel. If you've got any more video ideas, put it down in the comments section down below. It'd be massively appreciated. Thanks to you for watching to the end. A couple of plugs right at the end here. Join the Discord if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to GM19. Thank you very much. 1K by the end of the year. Can we do it? I'm going to do that every single episode, so apologies.
Yeah.
And obviously, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. Leave a like if you did enjoy. And without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.